Everybody listen to We're Not Wizards, because we are the best, and we're not wizards, no matter what anybody says. Goodbye.
Hello and welcome to another episode of We're Not Wizards. My name's Richard. I'll be your host for March, I guess. Now, joining me, I've done lots of things in our time. When we've been speaking to people, we've spoken to people who create things. So I've spoken to people that make films, I've spoken to people that make podcasts, I've spoken to people who take white pieces of paper and make absolutely wondrous things. To date, I have spoken to artists that take ideas, put them on the page full of colour and wonder and ink and magnificence to tell a story. And I thought, I could take this further. But I need somebody to help me. I don't need somebody to help me all the way. I don't need somebody to be fully cooperative. I maybe need somebody to just be semi-cooperative, almost semi-co-op. So, who else could I ask on the show? But I've got Rachel and I've got Heinze from Semi-Co-op to talk about art in their comic series that they've been running for almost 5 years. So there we go. So hello to you both.
Hey.
Hello.
How are you doing? That's probably the most loaded question in the world at the moment.
When you said, I'll be your presenter in March, I was like, this is the longest March ever, so this one hell of a job.
It's kind of like, I don't know, because I'm always swithering whether or not it's editing. It's nothing more than, I think what could potentially happen is we could get to the 31st of March, and then we wake up the next day and it's the 32nd of March. And then it just kind of keeps on going. So we'll be on like, welcome to the 157th of March kind of thing, which means we'll not see Christmas. Which
that sounds about right.
Could potentially be a thing, let's face it. We're here because you have been creating kind of comics for almost 5 years, and it seemed like a good time to get you guys on the show. But you're creating kind of pieces that are involved in around the kind of the board game space. So I'm just interested in finding out a little bit more about yourself. So I guess the first question is, did you both study kind of art when you were kind of growing up? Was that what you did at kind of college or university, or is it something that moved from being a hobby into something that you're doing now?
Well, we actually both did the same studies at a university. It's called Art and Technology. Mm-hmm. But it's a very broad education, so it goes from web design to video, audio, programming, even soldering. It's very broad.
That's very broad.
And after 2... I actually know how to do that. It's fun. It's very handy nowadays.
Do you ever find yourself kind of breaking stuff on purpose so that you can get the soldering iron out and go, I can fix this, I can do this?
I have a disassembled Bluetooth speaker on my desk right now,
right?
Which I want to turn into the MonkeyBot 30,000 from Clank in Space, because I want a giant golden monkey with speakers on my desk.
So when you were sitting back then in college doing your class, did you ever think that one day you'd be putting together a great big golden monkey that you could play music out of?
Not specifically, but that was the sort of thing I was doing in college.
This is true.
So, are you a couple then? I mean, or do you just hang out lots? Because I don't want to assume anything.
We're married, but we also hang out lots.
Yes.
Nowadays,
especially.
Nowadays, it's 24/7. We just hang out all the time.
Exactly.
Almost like we're kind of forced by the government to hang out together.
Quality time. Sponsored by the government. Yeah. So we did do the same education, but after 2 years, you have to pick your own path, so to say. And that in my case, I have been doing 3D animation and game graphic design, and Heinze did
more technical things like art installations and stuff like that.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah.
Does that mean actually kind of on the art installation side, does that mean you actually put the stuff into the art galleries themselves and make sure everything's set up with like the lighting and the layout and everything like that?
No, it's more like that you make something for an art gallery or museum, but you're actually making interactive pieces that the audience can interact with.
Oh, right, okay. Well, like lights and stuff like that, or things that kind of change when they kind of touch them and stuff like that. Yeah, stuff like that. Lights, sounds, displays, type of motors that change things in the room, stuff like that. All right. So you've actually taken the soldering side of things kind of really seriously. You've gone up a couple of levels, whereas Rachel's just like a part-time mucking about type of soldering type person kind of thing.
Precisely.
Yeah.
As somebody who's creating these kind of interactive pieces, Heinze, do you actually hang around the installations to see how people kind of react to different things?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, because that's very useful. I've actually, at one point, we made an installation. Somebody actually got an intern to do observations for a whole day to make us learn how people interact with it.
Wow.
No. Oh, we have a cat walking over the keyboard right now. Everything is fine. Continue.
Okay, yes, continue.
Which one's that? Is it
Star
Apollo?
It's Star Trek.
It's Star, okay. Of course it would.
Because you're often dealing with interactive installation in public spaces, so there's always this barrier of I don't want to act weird in public.
Yeah.
So there's a very interesting level of you have to attract people and also make them feel comfortable around in their surroundings to interact with it. So it's very, very important that you test and observe in a real life environment to see if your idea actually works.
So do you work alongside a team, or are you like a kind of an artist in your own right that's doing these things, or how's it working? Does somebody come to you and say, look, I want to put this kind of installation in my gallery, and do you kind of design that for them, or are you going about saying, well, this is my latest piece, this is what I'm kind of doing?
So I don't do it a whole lot anymore. I think the last piece was like a year ago now. But it's a combination. Sometimes it comes from a pitch. Sometimes it's sort of like an open call where friends who have a gallery or made a deal with a gallery say like, okay, I would love to have you make something here, but do whatever. Sometimes I just want to team up with people I think are interesting, and then I mail them like, oh, let's do something. I've got some ideas surrounding this idea, or I want to use this piece of technology to be more familiar with it. But let's just start brainstorming and see where this is going.
What would you say the work you're most kind of proud of is in terms of your installations?
think I've two projects which I think are my favorite. One was I did with Rachel for a organization called Drop Stuff. Mm-hmm. They own all sorts of huge LED screens, portable ones, but also ones that are just hanging around on train stations and stuff.
Yeah.
We got to go to Venice.
Wow.
And create a game there that one player was in Venice controlling a game on a giant LED screen, which was, I think, 4x3 meter or 6x3 meter.
Wow.
And the other player was in Amsterdam, I want to say. Maybe it was The Hague. Mm-hmm. Well, at least in a Dutch city. And we made a game in which you have a car with two steering wheels. And you had to collaborate to prevent yourself from crashing into priceless artworks.
Right. Wow. Do you?
Yep.
Do you? I mean, do you ever get kind of like ideas? Do you have like a kind of a notebook full of ideas that you would like to do? I mean, is there anything that you would really just like to? If somebody says, "Okay, here is, lots of money."
Yes.
Lots of money, and here is enough tin and a soldering iron and some LED bulbs and some sellotape, and here's a sandwich in case you get hungry. What type of thing would you like to kind of create yourself then?
There are a whole lots of things. So I would like to create an interactive gallery space that can teach you about everything that's going on in your city, because I've been working as a researcher about smart cities, and I've been collecting all these different data streams from the city we live in.
Yeah.
There's a sort of a small, well, kind of big, but simple installation at our city hall, which I programmed.
Oh, right. Okay.
Which shows all the different data streams. Mm-hmm. But I would love to expand on that with a big budget and a permanent room, so we can go like Minority Report style gestures and flashy production.
So you want people to be able to interact with the screen, and are you going to have like a Tom Cruise puppet actual size?
Yeah, but I kind of want to do like a huge model of the city.
Wow.
Like in wood or iron or whatever. Foam, I don't care. It just has to be big, and I want to project data on it so people can learn about their surroundings.
That's pretty cool. What about yourself, Rachel? I mean, you do like, your main job is you do a lot of illustration. Is that correct?
Yeah. I mainly do illustration right now. Mm. I used to do quite some animation and motion graphics.
Wow.
But that has, I think thanks to semi-co-op, that has fluently or very subtly gone more into the illustration side of work. But it's been fun so far, and I think semi-co-op actually I have a lot to thank, a lot of clients thanks to semi-co-op at this point, so it's been good.
What made you decide to what made you decide to bring out kind of semi-co-op in the first place? What was the kind of the story behind it? Was it driven by yourself, kind of, Rachel? Were you kind of thinking, well, we can actually, because from what I can tell, I mean, I know we mentioned Penny Arcade, and how obviously we all aware that you're better than them in terms of what you do. Well, that's my opinion, and as we know, everything I say is a fact. But I mean, the space in terms of there's the board game media space is deliciously wonderful in the fact that it's very easy to bring out a new idea that maybe has been tried in other spaces, but there's very few examples of that within, like, say, the tabletop space. So was it a reason that you sitting about going, oh, actually, I could potentially do something kind of here? I mean, what made you kind of move forward?
Funny enough, I actually started this whole project as a way for me to actually practice character drawing. But I also know
right.
I also know myself, and I also know that I could do a few tutorials on character design and cartoon drawing.
Mm-hmm.
But then I would do that a few times, and I wouldn't do it anymore. So I needed a project, and that's why I said to myself, you should just, start a webcomic. You should keep on doing that, and then you would have a reason to keep practicing. So that's how it started out, and somehow we're like 5 years later now, and why about board games? Of course, that's a good question as well. At first we were like, I also discussed this with Heinze. We were like, should we do it about general geeky things? But then we quickly concluded that there are like, thousands of webcomics about general geeky culture. So I actually decided to keep it focused. Just, take a niche market. At this point, when Semi-Co-op launched, there were about, 2 other webcomics about board games. Mm-hmm. So it felt like a really safe starting space. And to be very honest, in the beginning, I never had the intention to, I didn't know how long I was going to do it. But like I said, somehow, here we are. 5 years, almost 5 years later, and I'm still doing it weekly. And never missed a comic, or never missed an update.
Did you find you slipped into a kind of a format for it quite early on then? I mean, was it just a case that you decided, okay, we're going to do this with the kind of the characters, and then we'll just put them in kind of different situations? Or did you start off with kind of like huge plans involving multiple characters and things like that at the beginning?
No, I think in the beginning we always wanted to keep it small. So we just had we did have like this big document with all kinds of random, or not really random, but ideas we had written down during a period of a few months, I think, that we thought would make for a funny comic. So it was always meant as short, simple comics, short jokes, so to say.
Yeah.
Do you have, I mean, who's between the two of you, who's the funniest one? I mean, I do mean that. If you were if you were to kind of like, if it was a case of, somebody says, if you don't tell me a really funny joke, I'll freeze you in carbonite. Say you're meeting Boba Fett or Jabba the Hutt, and they say, if you don't tell us a really, really funny joke, then you're both going to get frozen in carbonite, and you'll end up in Jabba's palace. And I don't know where I'm going with this, but it's just come off my head. But
it ends in a rancor, and
it could end up. It could end up with that. But between the two of you, who would step up to the plate and tell the joke then?
Heinze. He is like, his memory is like weirdly gigantic. He remembers everything, so I'm certain he would remember a good joke.
So you just come up with something kind of random. That's pretty good? No, that must be pretty good.
I can't do it right now. I see listeners going like, "Yeah, say something funny."
Say something funny. That's the next thing. I'm not doing it. Come on.
But Rachel is the master of like the unintentional pun or unintentional like layered comment.
Yeah, I don't know when I make a joke. It's terrible. Then he starts laughing, and I'm like, "Why are you laughing?" And then I realize that that was actually pretty good.
Do you do a lot of planning out then? I mean, in terms of the comics that you produce, what kind of comes first? Does the idea for the comic come first, or do you like look at a game and say, all right, this game's going to be coming out, this game's going to be coming out on Kickstarter, let's look at producing a kind of a comic for it? Or do you come up with an idea and say, well, what game can we kind of fit this round? How does that kind of work?
It sort of goes both ways. Sometimes we have an idea for a joke about a game, but we realize like, okay, nobody's talking about that game right now, and we know there's an expansion coming up or some sort of Kickstarter. Then we just write it down and keep it until the time is there. And sometimes we really sit down and go like, okay, this is something we want to do a joke about. Can we do something funny with this?
And do you have a lot of stuff prepared in advance? I mean, are you working kind of like 2 or 3 weeks ahead then?
No, we're mostly these last couple of months. It's been like 5 minutes after Rachel presses save in Photoshop, you'll see it online.
Yep, it's terrible.
Really?
In the ideal world,
yeah.
I would have like a backlog of like 3 comics, and I think I had at one time, but somehow I'm way too busy with freelance work at this point that I can't manage. So actually on Monday I make the comic and I publish the comic. And still you would say that's very dangerous. Yes, it is.
It is.
But 5 years later, never miss an update.
So you're still here.
Going fine.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. And sometimes because I'm obviously very funny and amusing, is that sometimes the planned jokes or the planned humour, you'll write it down and you go, oh, actually that's not as funny as I thought it was going to be. That's probably my whole show is it's not as funny as I thought it was going to be. But sometimes it's like the off the cuff, quick kind of running the idea. When I was speaking to Emma from the Pointless Parrot podcast, she was basically saying, if I've got an idea, the best thing for me to do with that idea is actually just to put it on video. Otherwise, if I sit and think about it too much, I'll find reasons why it's not interesting or entertaining. And I must admit, I'm the same when I'm writing a review. If I come up with an opening for like a review when I'm writing a review or recording something, then if I think about it too much, I'll just think, oh, it's rubbish, and I'll kind of move on and kind of do something else.
We did do smaller black and white comics for a year for Cool Stuff Inc. And because the jokes had to be simpler, we sort of just went like, cool, this sounds funny, let's do it. And after a few comics, people started saying like, this is your best work, which was pretty funny and maybe a bit insulting because those didn't require as much thought or work in the art. But we sort of decided that we are not going to worry. If we think something works, we'll do it. We're not going to worry too much about, is this resonating with others and is this going to be popular? Because we've found out that we're really bad at predicting the success of a comic.
Yep. If we think it's funny, chances are big the public doesn't.
And if we think it's like, this is so-so, then it's probably going to go viral.
Yep.
Yeah, I think everybody suffers from that. I think I've certainly been in the situation where I've recorded a show that I thought was where it just went really, really well and everything clicked, and it gets the same kind of number of listeners. And then on occasion, I'll record a show and it's like, well, that was okay. And people come back and go, that was amazing. I really, really found that entertaining. That was so interesting. And I'm just going, I have no way to measure this. This is terrible.
Yeah.
I'm really depressed. In terms of the styles that you adopt, do you keep it quite straightforward and simple to in order to keep the kind of the production time as low as possible? I mean, how long would you say you're normally working on a comic?
I'd say for a comic, 1 work day would be fair to say. Yeah.
Wow.
It kind of depends. So it probably ranges from 5 to maybe sometimes 9 or 10 hours.
Wow.
Depending on how big the comic is or how complex it is and everything. But it does take a lot of time. actually.
Do you break that? Do you break that down then into time slots? Because I'm understanding that you have like freelance work you have to do, so you've got to earn kind of money. You got to earn money for this. So do you kind of like split it up? So you do like, an hour, then do your main freelance work, and then work on it a little bit more, kind of lunchtime wise and things like that? Or do you just say, right, I'll get it out of the way, I'll get it done, and I'll get it kind of finished?
Well, at this point, I mostly just block out Mondays to actually draw the comic.
Right.
And, all the other days are just, for my freelance work. So it's kind of a sacrifice, but we also have like the money coming in from Patreon. So.
Yeah.
It's not completely for free.
No, but I mean, I guess, at the same time then, with you, I mean, and I ask this of everybody who's kind of running a Patreon, do you feel that in running the Patreon you've got to produce a lot more work? Do you sometimes feel you're kind of putting a bit more kind of pressure on yourself to produce some extra work in order to kind of keep the patrons kind of happy?
Well, when we discussed how to set up the Patreon, I think the most important rule was it shouldn't cost us any more time, and we shouldn't have to make additional content. That, of course, didn't turn out to be completely true, because every year the Christmas card and like the mystery gift we give people all turn into like multi-month projects somehow. But in generally in the comic itself, we just sort of presented like, okay, this is the comic, this is the thing you support us for, and thank you so much. But that's about it, I think. Yeah.
And in terms of feeling pressure, I tend not to do that. I mean, most of the Patreons we have actually say they really support us just because they like the work we do, and they really don't want any additional content. They're not asking for it. They're very happy they can support us a little for everything we already do. So I think no, I don't feel extra pressure. No.
No, I think it's a difficult internal battle to kind of have, because with the Patreon that I've got, I'll occasionally, and I'm terrible at this, and I always feel bad because I'll put out like an update and then I'll realise, it's been so long since I put out the last update, and I always find my updates on my Patreon are updates to apologise for the fact that I haven't done an update before, and we promise, and then here's some stuff that we're going to be doing, and again, really sorry for not updating you kind of before. And yet I always find when I speak to people who do kind of support us, and I say, well, do you think we're doing the right thing? I said, well, I'm not interested in kind of extra stuff. I'm just interested in, I'm coming along and giving you some additional money every month because I want to support what you're doing on a month by month basis, which is sometimes kind of difficult to kind of get out of that mindset. In terms of style and things like that, the kind of the style of the comic itself. Have you ever considered kind of doing something just on a huge grand scale? I mean, I taught you, obviously, I'm when I said to Heinze earlier on about the type of installation that they would do if, resources were unlimited. For yourself, have you ever thought about, well, I've actually got a big project and I'm just going to spend a couple of months kind of pushing the artwork in a different direction for the web comic and kind of creating something really different for people to look at?
Well, for semi-gulp, I'd say if I have a few months, I would definitely jump into animation.
Yeah.
Because we have the tools nowadays and we just have to make some awesome puppets, and I'd love to just spend a few months on building a cool thing for that, because we've already experimented with that a little. We actually have a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
It's like our secret.
It's our secret little space.
Yeah.
And that's something I'd really love to do if it was possible. But at this point, it takes a lot of time, and it's not really doable next to all the freelance work, actual work.
and video takes, hats off to anybody that does a video and does does like a B-roll and a C-roll and records kind of like special effects, because as somebody who's done a couple of videos, I'm just, podcasting is easy because what will happen is that I will go through this and I'll listen back and I'll pick out anything where I sound ridiculous and take that away, which is usually most of it. But video, if I want to reduce the length, or, if there was an awkward silence or a pause, or if somebody decided to let out an almighty, powerful, beautiful belch halfway through, I could cut that out. But if you do that through a video, editing just takes a long time, rendering it just takes a long time, and you can do, and I've done this before where I've filmed a video and the lighting hasn't been great, and then it just looks, you're just like, that was so good, but I've got to now go and do the whole thing again, and I know it's not going to be as good, and and then back to podcasting I go because I kind of hate it. But so hats off to anybody that's done that type of thing.
Yes. Especially people who film on location.
Yes.
Because, it's so scary.
I could just, it's like, I see Shut Up and Sit Down do occasional kind of outside things, and just like cut shots to that, and I'm just like,
yeah.
And I've seen, and also my friend of the show, Dan Hughes, from Sporadically Bored and Order from Chaos and stuff like that, he's done a wonderful series called Letters from Huddersfield, where he actually videos him kind of sitting on a bench and walking into a post office and stuff like that. And I really have a huge appreciation for the amount of time that it takes, them and, say, Paula Deming and folk like that, all the kind of the work that they Shut Up and Sit Down themselves, all the work that they put into kind of the videos. And I know that I don't have the willingness, I just don't have the time. And I think a lot of people are in the same direction.
The interestingly, one of the most impressive things I always see is the One Tar Tiffany does those, hey, I'm snowboarding and reviewing some games.
Yes.
And she's just snowboarding or on some sort of fairground, and there's lights going off in the background, and the sound isn't supposed to be that good, but somehow she sounds perfect, and she makes it look so effortless. And I'm like, I can't even get one shot right, and you're doing this like very playful walking around in a very hard environment to get right images and right sounds, and you're just having a good time somehow. I don't understand.
But one of the things you guys are doing quite well is you're doing kind of a lot more kind of sponsored kind of content, as in commissioned work. I've seen recently for things like God Tier, where you produced a web comic kind of based around that. Are you finding that's becoming kind of more and more popular? Are you getting more requests from that? Because Steamforged, they could come on the podcast and they could get people to do like a walkthrough video or a playthrough video, and that kind of raises a little bit of, can raise quite a lot of interest in the project. But do you think your way is a kind of a unique way to get people aware of the game and what it's offering?
I think so. We have been seeing that it's becoming a lot more popular, especially I think last summer we did Heroes of Tenerife and Isle of Cats, and both Pepijn and I forgot a name.
Now you forgot it, and now I forget it.
Oh, sorry. Frank, sorry. We're sorry, Frank. We're so sorry.
Is it Frank? Frank won't mind. Frank West?
No,
we don't like...
Frank West.
We don't like... Frank's
fine.
Yeah,
he doesn't mind. But both came out and said, like, okay, this comic really helped. Especially Frank sort of like showed that our comics really help in like the middle slump of a Kickstarter campaign. So once we had that information and his like confirmation that it actually helps, it really helped us to come to publishers and say like, okay, this is what we're offering. This is work we've done in the past, and this is what has done for those publishers. Because we started offering it because somebody asked us at one point if we did it, and we're like, this sounds like a fun idea, but we have no idea if it's a good idea. And I want to say after those 2 sponsored comics, it really clicked. Like, okay, yeah, this is something cool. This is something new. And this is actually helping raise interest in games.
Yeah, and for publishers, it's a very fun and original. It's actually very fun and original content for their fans or the people on the socials.
Yeah, no, I mean
to share with them. Yeah,
yeah, and it can be exclusive content as well, because you can say, well, look, if you back the Kickstarter, you can get access to. We'll send it out as an actual physical kind of product. I mean, there's a lot of there's a lot of scope, and it is unusual, as I say. It's preview videos, bless them and all that, but they're generally kind of, well, this is how you play, and there you kind of go. And I think people are always looking for kind of additional reasons to engage. And as you say, the middle of the God Tier campaign, it was worthwhile them kind of, look, here's some comics that we've done, just to kind of get that kind of backer interaction. Is there anyone you would like to work with then? I mean, is there somebody that's on the pitch list that you guys would just really, really like to get your artist claws into?
Good question.
Yeah, we probably should have a list, but we've just been sort of like, oh my god, people actually want this now, that we haven't made like a wish list. I mean, of course, there are companies we would love to do something with. We both love Later Games, who did Fast and Rude.
Oh wow, yeah.
I mean, we've not had a contact about a comic, but we did we did those propaganda posters for Root at one point. Yeah. Which they reached out and said, we really like those. So that was very cool. Who else would we like to work with? I would really like to work with Osprey at one point. I think they're doing really cool stuff. And maybe not even for their board games, but they're like, here's a rule book, get some miniatures and have fun, because I think that is really cool, and not enough people know about those things like Gaslands and Frostgrave.
And even Wildlands is, I mean, let's face it, Wildlands is a lovely, lovely game that is just, I mean, it's practically right in the comics itself with regards to the different characters.
At the same time,
I think it'd be...
Yeah, at the same time, we haven't been able to come up with a good comic about it, and it's been tearing at least me apart for a while now.
Yes. Well, I think for at least a year now.
You just have to try. You just have to try better.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean,
or we'll just go brainstorm with you.
Just perfect. Let's do okay. Let's
funny.
A Wildlands comic is all about running out of cards, isn't it? It's basically about why didn't you attack that person? You had the crystal in your hand. Why didn't you attack him? Because I didn't have the right card on me. Boom.
Yeah.
There you go.
Boom.
Done.
And I've also been playing around with that idea, like, why is this crystal super important for you, but other players seem to think it's trash? Why? Is it just because the color? Are you...
What if you're colorblind?
Yeah.
I always thought the thing was they would lift one of their hats off, and then what you would see is that we're actually wearing beautiful earrings under their hat, and they had lots of stud earrings, and it was quite clear they were missing one of the stud earrings, which is what they needed the crystal for.
Perfect.
There you go. Or a teeth thing. Why do you need these crystals to finish off my teeth? Or because they're nice. They're nice and shiny. If you make any of these comics, by the way, using these ideas, you can have them, because I'll never get off my butt to draw anything. It's been a long time since I drew anything. Is there? I mean, you mentioned previously, Rachel, that you've you kind of stepped away from the kind of the geek stuff, or stayed away from the general geek stuff, because there was so many kind of comics out there doing that. But is there other kind of parts of kind of, I don't know why we call geek, normal popular culture that makes billions of dollars. But is there any kind of more mainstream stuff that you would love to kind of create something for? And is it possibly Battlestar Galactica? I'm just guessing.
Oh, I'd love to, but I could actually do that because there's a Battlestar Galactica board game. I should do this. Good idea. Write this down.
Write these all down. This is just gold. I feel like this isn't a podcast. This is almost like a consultancy. Ken, and what is it they call it? Blue sky thinking. Basically, blue sky. Let's gather. Of course, nobody can gather together, because we can't. Let's gather. Let's have a meeting in the office. Bring your hazmat suits. We'll have a chat, kind of thing. But no, I mean, yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, about 5 years ago, I also had a lot of more spare time to play video games, so I also had tons of ideas for jokes about video games. So that's where it was coming from. So in the beginning I was more thinking about more of relationship jokes relating to all kinds of things in, I'm gonna say the word again, geeky or just pop culture.
Ding ding ding. There you go.
Yeah. So that's where that was coming from. But would I still want to do that? Well, not really. I'm kind of, I kind of like that it's I don't want to say it's close. It
has boundaries.
Yes, it has boundaries.
Yeah, but there's a directness. I mean, there's also there's kind of certain popular games, certain popular developers, designers, that if you did a comic about them, for instance, if you did a comic about say, John Gilmore, everybody would say, Dead of Winter, or, a Wasteland Express Delivery. So there's still kind of, or Jamie Stegmaier. I'd love to see somebody doing a comic about just Jamie Stegmaier, being actually the source of all evil on this earth, because he's a secret supervillain, and I'm pretty sure he's like Magneto, and he has a shiny metallic helmet that he controls the world with. And what he does is he does these lovely interviews with everybody. He's all smiley and all nice, and then he goes down into his hollowed out volcano, and he's he's kind of, I don't know, stealing sweets off of small children. He's crunching Stroop waffles underneath his boots so the people that like gluten-free stuff can't eat them. Just various various kind of things.
Jamie would be a good subject because he has this vlog, so you can easily sort of copy his way of speaking and thinking into comic ideas.
Yeah.
So Jamie would actually be great. I mean, to be fair, I don't even know what Jonathan Gilmour's voice sounds like or how he speaks, so that would be very hard to make a comic about.
He's been on the show a couple of times. I'm happy to send you all the recordings of all the outtakes with him talking normally, so we can get this, get this stuff done. In terms of, the situation just now, with you being kind of online based, have you noticed a huge effect in kind of what's happening? Are you kind of using the web comics just to be, okay, let me rewind a bit. In this kind of time, in this kind of situation, do you think it's important for you to continue to produce the web comic on a weekly basis to kind of keep normality going, to keep a routine going? To keep people having something to look forward to kind of every Monday kind of thing?
just for us to retain normality, I think it's important.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's been really fun to see everybody going like, "Oh, I'm stuck in my house. Let's start live streaming."
Yeah.
But it's also being sort of, I don't want to say tiring, but I feel like a slight social obligation every time. I'm like, "Oh, you're creating a thing, and I should repay you with my time," but I don't have the time right now. So every time somebody goes like, "I'm streaming," it's like, I'm really sorry. You probably don't know, but I feel like I'm hurting you a bit.
Yeah.
Well, and actually, for me, in this entire stay-at-home business we're in nowadays, nothing has really changed. I've been preparing for this or training for this like for years now. Only difference is that Heinze is at home as well.
Yes.
And the only difference is we can't go out and have game nights, and we can't go out and do bouldering. But other than that, work-wise, things haven't really changed for me. Actually, I'm kind of in the busiest period ever because I'm still finishing up a very big project. Yeah. So it's been really weird, actually.
So you've now not just got a couple of cats to deal with. You've also got a husband kind of going about the house. I hope Yeah,
it's an adjustment, but no, it's fine.
It's fine. Look, thank you very, very much for coming on. I mean, I know these aren't exactly ideal circumstances, but we make the best with what we can. If people have listened along tonight and they, let's face it, you will be aware of Semi-Co-op, and if you aren't, don't be silly. Of course you're aware of them. But if people want to find you on the internet webs, where do we find you on the internet webs?
So the main place is the website, which would be semicoop.com. And then every social media we can get our hands on, except for Snapchat and TikTok, we're at Semi-Co-op.
Yeah. So we're mostly active on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and you can also find and maybe support us on Patreon.
Oh, that's very professional. Very good.
Just give them money, for goodness sake. Their stuff's really, really good. $1.
I mean, we're better than Penny Arcade.
See, you hear it there. That's
so
recorded. No, that's a quote from me directly. Because Penny Arcade, they can come after me, but they'll never find me. You'll never find me. But no, we'll make sure that we put all the links in the show notes so that we've got notes to show. If you want to keep an eye on what we're doing, I'll be at my house. Basically.
Like
search, else. Just like everyone else. Search for We're Not Wizards. You'll find us. I would say come round, but you can't. So there you go. But we are on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and all these wonderful places. And if you like what you've listened to tonight, then tell other people about us. Don't tell them face to face, obviously, because you can't not allowed to do that. But also consider going to the Apple Podcasts and dropping us a subscription, because that's really, really nice as well.
Maybe if you're in a video call this week, just put the podcast on in the background.
There you go.
Just get people interest going.
I want that guitar music wailing out, the intro music, everywhere it can. I want it to become the new national anthem. That's all I would like. But again, thank you very, very much for coming on. There's only a couple more things to do. The first thing...
Exciting.
It's not that exciting. The first thing is to remember that we're many things, but we're not wizards. Are we wizards?
No, we are not.
Certainly not a wizard.
Fantastic. And the second thing is to say goodbye. So it's a goodbye from Rachel. Say goodbye, Rachel.
Bye-bye.
And it's a goodbye from Heinze. Say goodbye, Heinze.
Bye-bye.
And it's a goodbye from me. Remember, I've been saying this for a couple of years now, but, and I see this crop up, but seriously, stay safe, roll sixes, make something awful. And until the next time, get yourself on the comics. Get yourself a bit of Semi-Co-op. And until the next time, goodbye.
wizard is never late. Nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to.